Hello, warriors. Welcome to the U movement. I am B. And Spirit has asked me to come on to move into the next chakra. A while back, I think it was in January, I did 3-part videos on the root chakra. So I'm continuing on in moving into the SACRAL or SACRAL, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Tomato, tomato. And the reason for that is because the energy that I can feel that the collective is currently sitting in, and I certainly have been as well, has been in clearing out the sacral chakra. So where before we were working heavily on the root, now we're moving up into the sacral area. And where is that? What is that? What's happening? That is located 1 to 3 inches just below your navel or your belly button. And its Vedic name, its original name is, and excuse my mispronunciation, because Swadhisthana. There you go. I'm sure somebody else pronounces it way better than I do, but that's what it's called. And it is translated to the dwelling place of self. And yes, because on this awakening path, what we are in essence doing is rebirthing ourselves. And this obviously is our womb space. So being the dwelling place of self, it's where we get to know truly who we are and become born anew as the phoenix rises from the ashes. Through this awakening process, in my multiple videos that I've done just very recently, you're always in a state of egoic and identity collapse, so that you can become more authentically yourself. So I guess this is why we're moving into this now. And the color associated here is orange. And you can see on my shirt that's upside down. That's what you get when you order something cheap. It was a misprint, and the chakra system is on my t-shirt here, but it's upside down, and I think that's funny. So I just wear it anyways, because the world kind of feels a little upside down now. So I also have tattoos of the chakra system on my forearm, and the life lesson associated with this chakra is all to do with sexuality, whereas the root chakra was really about the fundamentals of sex, and this is more getting into like sexuality and how we use it. If you understand that the chakras are interconnected, so the male genitalia is located in the root chakra, whereas the female, the uterus, is located in the sacral. So both of these interconnect through the act of sexuality, of course. Work is also associated with this. What is your life's passion and how does that drive you? As well as your physical desires. The purpose associated with this chakra is all to do with movement and connection. And so, this very much is all about the U movement, because we understand that movement is vitally important in the healing journey, in your healing quest. So connection is, how are we connected to others? Our interconnections, our relationships, this is moving us up out of that tribal energy and more into interpersonal development between friends. It's when we hit the playground and we develop all kinds of different types of connections, and through experiencing each other and mirroring through each other, we get to know thyself. So if the purpose is the dwelling place of self, in connecting to others, they act as mirrors so that we can know ourselves even more. The right, so every chakra has a right that is associated, and the right here is the right to feel. This definitely plays out probably one of my favorite chakras then, because I talk a lot about the right to feel, and that certainly has been one of my main missions on the U movement, is getting people to stop the war on emotions and stop the war on repressing feelings, the undesirable emotions. Every single emotion has value and has purpose and is valid. And just because society has looked upon emotions in a distasteful light, well, certain emotions, doesn't mean that in an energetic way that that's healthy. And we're trying to move ourselves up out of situations that aren't healthy and move ourselves into situations that are far healthier. To be in alignment with self requires keeping our emotional center functioning fully so that the energy is coming in as well as releasing, and coming in and letting go. If emotions and situations are coming in and we're holding on to them, then we're not able to fully utilize what this whole center is all about, which is to give us vital information on choices that we need to make when we're plugged into this center. If we're disconnected from this center and from our emotions, then we're not able to fully get that gut feeling to guide you in a place of better discernment and better awareness. Intellect isn't just about your smarts, it's also about your emotional smarts and your ability to read situations and feel your way through situations. And so if this center is shut down and not active and not functioning, then you're going to be debilitating half of your reasoning. In so doing, we will self-sabotage through our lives and create any number of problems for ourselves. I've done very in-depth videos on each of the chakras. There's a chakra playlist. Please go check out those videos. I know I've done 2 in there on the sacral chakra, and both of them have really useful information for you. So the consciousness that is associated with this chakra is all about emotions. It is the consciousness of emoting, and understanding that through emoting and through feeling, we have an awareness of what's happening around us. And so without having an awareness, you would be walking around, in a sense, kind of blind, putting yourselves into situations that aren't healthy for you, and putting yourselves into connections with others that could be quite detrimental. Because if you're not allowed to feel your feels, then you're negating self. And this is the birthplace of self. And if you're negating self, then you're creating imbalances in your connections, in your interpersonal relationships. That's where things like boundaries come into play, and understanding that, hey, wait a second here, this doesn't feel good how you're speaking to me, or this doesn't feel good how you're treating me, or you're giving me this silent treatment, or you're giving me this judgment, and I don't like it, and so I'm going to feel that feeling and make a decision based upon that feeling and say, yeah, that's not for me. Myself doesn't resonate with this energy. But if it's not functioning and the boundaries aren't healthy boundaries, and boundaries can be both too lax as well as too stringent, too thick. You can think of a boundary as being a small little picket fence that somebody can easily just walk over, or your boundaries could be as thick as the Great White Wall in the Game of Thrones. So what do your boundaries kind of look like? Because those boundaries, if they're on either extreme, could be showing that you're not connected to your emotional center. Because if you need to erect a Great White Wall to keep your emotion center safe, then you're not fully allowing the flow of energy. It's all frozen and keeping you, I got to keep myself safe and secure and protected and avoid, and you're not allowing to have interconnections, because who's going to climb a Great White Wall? No one. And if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, where you don't have any boundaries, you're also disconnected from your emotions, because you're allowing people to treat you poorly. And you're accepting that in probably a wounded energy of like fawning or people pleasing, because, well, if I just give you what you want, then maybe you'll treat me nicer. And that's not a functioning energetics on your emotions. Your emotions are supposed to be telling you, red light, green light, red light, green light, orange light. Take a little bit of caution with this one, and so you can navigate through the world in a healthier and more balanced state of being. So the key issues associated here are blame and guilt. You get into the blame game of, well, I have to have thick boundaries because, I was wounded as a kid, or my first wife or husband did this, and, it's their fault that I'm like this. And so I have every right to be like this because I'm very much in my victimization. And blame gets something that gets thrown out at somebody else because I don't want to take ownership of my blame. I don't want to take ownership of my own emotions. So I'm going to throw them out at somebody else. In so doing, you are depriving yourself of true, healthy interconnections with people. This is a prime example of what narcissists do, is always shoving the blame onto somebody else so that they don't need to take and sit in their own emotions and sit in their own stuff. And without sitting in your own stuff, you can't heal it. You can't go into the depths of your emotion center and release and heal. And so you actually are creating a cord with that person wherein you are constantly feeding them energy through that blame cord. And then you're going through life with all these cords attached to people. And energetically, that would be very depleting. Another way of looking at that is guilt. If somebody has the capacity to come in and guilt you to do things all the time, like, oh, I don't want to hurt them, I don't want to do this, I'd feel guilty if I feel that, then you're easily manipulated if you have a lot of guilt that's playing out in your energy. And that's a hook that narcissists also use to get somebody else to do their bidding for them, because I can guilt trip you into doing whatever I need you to do. Money issues also come into play here, as well as the root. As I said, there's interconnection with a lot of the chakras, but in your root chakra is about basic survival. This is more about get past the basic survival, and how else do you use your money? Do you have a relationship with your money that is poverty consciousness, and I can't afford anything, and I can never do anything, and I have to hold on to everything, and I'm scared? Or is your relationship to money a little bit more free flowing? Understand that money moves in one hand and out the other, and in one hand and out the other. And in that process of movement, you can create more joyful experiences for yourself by saying, okay, I'm going to use this money to do something fun, like jump out of a plane. I don't know why that's coming into my head, because that wouldn't be fun for me, but maybe it's fun for you, having a little bit of risk taking and doing something a little bit out there. Or maybe you want to spend your money on books and read things, and you enjoy sitting and reading. So how do you spend your money once your basic survival is taken care of is the question that one needs to look at to see, okay, how healthy and how functioning is my sacral chakra? Is it in a state of flow, of in and out, or is it in a state of stagnation and I'm trying desperately to hold on to everything? Because that's a flag that something is out of balance in this area. Power and control begins to come into play here, although it moves more into the solar plexus energy, but its birthplace is here of starting to see how in my interconnections and my physical environment and things around me am I in a position of trying to control situations to make myself safer. Do I shut down my emotions because it makes somebody else calmer, and when they're calmer then I'm calmer? Or can I fully and truly express myself and say whatever it is that I am feeling confidently and comfortably without fear of any repercussions? So am I trying to control myself? Am I trying to control others? Am I trying to control the interactions? Or is there again a free flowing energy that allows for emotions to be expressed without any gameplay of turning around and knocking what somebody says down, or saying, well, that's not true, and disregarding and dismissing, and any number of other things that you can do in communications when it comes to interrelations with people. This is also your creative zone. Obviously, this is the womb space. So this is where we birth anew, not only new children, but where we create and bring to fruition our ideas that we want to manifest, our creative ventures. And I don't mean just artistically speaking, but if you have a business or you have a home that you're working on and you want to create something in it and make it feel a certain way. How does your home feel to you? What is the environment creating for yourself? What does your job feel like to you? What is anything that you're how do I feel about this is the question that you need to keep asking yourself so that you can birth what you want it to feel like. Does that you want to have joy? You want to have bliss? You want to have peace? You want to have harmony? You want to have love? What is it that you want? If you can identify what it is that you want, it's going to be a lot easier to create it. If you don't feel any feelings, then how are you going to accomplish reaching these elusive things that have no meaning because you're disconnected from feeling? Next up, we have ethics and honor in relationships. And this comes into play of all these types of energies. Are you lying to yourself and therefore lying to others about things? Because lying, and society has given some sort of green light to white lies. And I don't understand that personally, because you're just robbing from each other the opportunity to truly know who you are, to truly know self. If you're not telling the truth and you're not being stand up and you're failing to have some ethics and stand in your truth, then that relationship is going to, over time, disintegrate because it can't withstand those types of non-authentic communications. Same with betrayal. But the betrayal wound really exists here because when two people come together in any form of relationship, whether it be friendship, romantic, business, anything, and there is a connection of trust that has been established in that root chakra and a cord that's been connected, when there's any form of betrayal wound that occurs, that's hard to recover from. Near impossible in most situations. It's like poisoning the connection between the two. So when you don't take ownership and to stand in a place of honor, integrity, and ethical action, what is going to happen is you rob yourself as well as the other person of having a strong bond. Sex, lust, obsession all comes into play here. Are you using sex as a means to develop connection with the hope that potentially it will lead to love in the heart chakra? If I give you sex, what will you give me? And sex has become very transactional. It's even built into almost every advertising scheme out there because sex sells. And that's the key word there. It sells. So what are you selling yourself for? And how much are you getting in return for that? Or is it a mutual coming together of energies in a sacred relationship that where there is all those ethical ties and those boundaries that have been established around the two of you so that you can develop into all the higher chakras of love and integrity through your words and having the same vision? And I did a video on sacred sexuality a while back, like last summer. If you're interested in watching that one, take a look for it. I can put the link for that in the description below. Lust is what comes into play here, and that overrides a genuine feeling of relationship. It gets into, I want you, I need you. It's like, I have to have you. And that's a dangerous energy. That's not kind energy, because lusting after somebody is a situation where you're not seeing them as a full person. You're almost just seeing them as a body, and it's something that you want to obtain. So it's a control thing of, I want to take ownership over you. I want to have you. So there's a reason why it's considered to be one of the 7 deadly sins, is because it's not mutually beneficial for both people. The one that is being lusted after doesn't have an equal footing in this situation. Or if you're both coming at it from a situation of just pure lust, are there others involved in the situation that could be potentially hurt and damaged? Because when you're breaking cords with other people, that's a betrayal wound. So if lust is overriding certain commitments that you have with people, and I'm not talking about just legal documentations of commitments. I'm talking about spiritual and sacred commitments that you've made with people. When you breach those boundaries, that's a betrayal wound that hurts the both of you, because then that lust has overridden your ethics. And so there's going to be an imbalance in this chakra region, as well as obsessions. When we obsess over certain people, and that doesn't necessarily mean obsessing just in a romantic way. It can be, you can have relationship with friends that you become very imbalanced, almost obsessing and putting them on a pedestal. And now I know from my personal experience, I've done that far too many times in life, because as I've said in many videos, if you have an imbalanced root chakra, all the chakras above are going to have imbalances as well. It's like a game of Jenga, and if there's some pieces missing on the bottom, then the whole tower is going to be a little wobbly, and things will have to overcompensate one way or another to make up for the imbalance in the root chakra. So root chakra issues, hands up, 100%, adopted at a very young age. That affected all my relationships moving forward, every single last one of them. And I easily came into a position of looking up, because that codependent energy started to play out. And where you have dependence upon somebody is a trauma bond. I never knew for the longest time exactly how powerful trauma bonds were until I started breaking them through my own awakening process. And that's been the most difficult part of my awakening, without question. I call the twin flame journey in a lot of ways the trauma bond to end all trauma bonds. And I say that because the feeling that you get for a twin flame situationship is so overwhelming and so like nonsensical, and so there's definitely like obsession to a point of like, why can't I stop thinking about this person? It's like, this is crazy. I should have long forgotten about this person, but you can't. It's kind of built into the system. And I understand the reason for it from a spiritual point of view is that keeps you tethered to that energy, so that you will let go of all of those situations that aren't in your highest and greatest good. And so it actually serves a function. And so that's why I say it's the trauma bond to end all trauma bonds, including eventually the bond that you have with your twins, so that you can let them go and move on with your life. You'll never forget them, but you won't be always in a state of like, I need them, why won't they talk to me? No, you can eventually, and it takes a lot of healing work and a lot of time and a lot of self-love, and bringing that energy back to self, back to self, back to self. Every time they trigger you, they're showing you something about yourself. And this is all about the birthplace of self. And so that twin flame situation is, as I said, the trauma bond to end all trauma bonds. And once those trauma bonds begin to disintegrate and break, these connections that you have to these people can be very, very painful. And the process of withdrawal that you go through when you're going through a trauma bond is I have no words. I have no words. It felt like I was withdrawing off of heroin or something. I just, logically, I couldn't understand what was happening. And I highly recommend, if you are getting yourself out of a trauma bonded situation with anyone, especially if they have narcissistic traits, is you go no contact. It's like quitting, like AA would tell you, you can't have any contact. You can't have a drink now and again and think that it's not going to bother you. No, it's got to be absolute zero contact with this person until they're truly and utterly out of your system. And that takes a long time. Especially the longer that you've been with them, and the more interconnection that has, that merging of energies that has occurred over years. No contact is absolutely a mandatory and necessary step to help neutralize and bring back into balance a very unhealthy attachment to somebody. And I have a playlist on trauma bonds if you want to watch that, in case you need some help with that. Also in here, talking about withdrawal, this is kind of the addictions center. because our addictions is what we use to repress the emotions. And while specific addictions can be associated with specific chakras, for example, smoking, heart chakra, alcohol, sacral chakra, root chakra, shopping perhaps. I've done more in detail on the addictions. I believe I've done a video on addictions for each chakra somewhere. I don't know at what time, maybe a year or so ago. But this is the main center for addictions, because when we are trying to repress emotions, and if this is our emotion center, we will grasp onto anything to keep the emotions at play. So that's the underlying key root of why addictions come to be, is because we're not emoting. And so if you start emoting, then you won't need addictions. And addictions can play out, as I said, in any of the chakras, in any which way, even up to the crown chakra. That's where spiritual righteousness gets in, where fundamentalism and extremism and unwillingness to like open yourself to anything else, because you're still in a state of repressing feeling and compassion for others. If you're saying to people, well, your God's not as good as my God, and this, that, and the other, because you're disconnected from your feeling center, or your feeling center is exacerbated and you're getting to extremism and like terrorism and rage and things like that. So every single chakra interconnects in and plugs in to the sacral chakra in regards to your addictions, as a means that ego uses to prevent you from feeling your feels. This also ties into violence, because when our emotions center gets way too much energy and way too it clouds everything else. It's like drowning in a sea of toxic emotion, and that's where we get empowered to go out and start shooting people, or start hurting people, or start overtaking people. One thing that comes to my mind right now is the energy of sexual assault is not an act of sex. It's an act of control and power and violence. And I know many people, including myself, that have unfortunately had this experience, and the ones that are sitting in the energy of doing these types of things are drowning in a sea of their own overwhelm. It's like they can no longer reason ethically. They can no longer reason in any form of interconnection with people on a healthy level whatsoever, and that is rooted deeply in terrible amounts of trauma that they would require a huge amount of healing and help to be able to overcome. As I've said many times, when the Me Too movement becomes the "it was me" movement, perhaps we will start to see writing in society and some karmic balancing that currently is still completely and utterly out of whack, because the amount of people that are sitting in silence and not coming forward and saying, I'm a victim of this situation, and I would like to have, what happens when they do that? They go to court and they're re-victimized. Well, what were you wearing? Well, what were you doing? Well, what did you say? As the perpetrator sits defending themselves with a huge defense around them. And this is a societal issue on grand proportion, far more than we would like to admit, because the fact of the matter is that the majority of people that go through these experiences don't ever admit to them. Until the Me Too movement came around, most people were sitting in silence and carrying this with, myself included. And to be able to announce to people, hey, wait a second, this did happen to me too, and multiple times, in fact, and I'm not going to sit in silence and carry the shame of this situation anymore. I'm going to return the shame to where it belongs, energetically speaking, so that those that have done wrong acts against me, because it's a robbing, it's an infiltration, it's a violation on many, many levels, from the physical all the way up into the spiritual, especially if you're a child, because when you're a child, that violation is like soul murder. It fractures soul into, and splinters soul off into so many different directions, which is why the process of soul recovery repressed memories surfacing with violent emotions is a very difficult part of the process on the awakening path if you have a lot of trauma, and those specific type of trauma, because that's how in a lot of cases the soul fragmented in the first place, is because of these type of violations. And these violations have been perpetrated to so many, and it's not limited to just a male or female issue, because there have been both situations as children where there have been violations done, and then if those traumas aren't dealt with and addressed and healed, and somebody assists them in bringing self back into wholeness, what you're going to have is fractured people walking out in the world, either stepping into an energy of narcissism and potentially sociopathy and psychopathy and all the rest, and perpetrating it themselves, because that whole idea of hurt people, or the energy of the empath, where they're like, I would never want anyone to feel like I felt, so I'm going to overcompensate this energy. So bringing this chakra as a whole consciousness, as a collective consciousness, is a necessary part of this awakening process, so that as a group consciousness, we can right these wrongs, and we can put back into balance the center of emotions, so that people can begin to feel their feels and heal. Also, this center is all about our need for relationships, and we are social beings, where yes, it's humanly possible to survive as a hermit in the forest, but the reality is, we are, even if you were living in the forest, separated on a quantum level, we're all connected. So if I'm hurting, somebody else is hurting, and empaths have the ability to tap into other people's energies, and then they take it upon themselves and feel it. I know as a clairsentient, I can get physically ill if somebody else is physically ill, or mentally I can pick up on other people's anxieties. And so the more highly sensitive people that are out there, and the empaths, the light workers, the starseeds, the twin flames, they are experiencing things on a collective level, not just their own level, which is why they feel their feels to the nth degree, like way too much, because energetically, where is the boundary? Where is the divide between you and me? So relationships are hugely important, because as we have relationships with others, we're able to interconnect and hopefully work together as a community to raise that consciousness up to a level of health and healing. Otherwise, we stay in this energy of victimization and violence and addictions and not feeling our feelings, keeping things very out of balance. With relationship, the goal has to be getting interdependent, not codependent in any way, and not avoidant of relationship, because either of those extremes is not going to be in balance. The ultimate goal and the purpose of relationship is to get to know self better, as well as be able to give and help them get to know themselves through honesty, through integrity, through openness, through connection, through love, through care. And so it's a give and take type of situation. So you have to ask yourself, in my relationships that I am currently in, is there reciprocal energy, or is the energy constantly give and nothing coming at the other side? So the more we work with people and develop our people skills and develop our emotion skills and have emotional intelligence, the better we're going to be able to be as a community, as a whole, for everyone. If we're out of balance with that, we may find, as I mentioned already, a need to try to control our relationships. And that's where all these little mind games and headfuckery and manipulations and lying and playing reactionary abuse and triangulation and all these types of nonsense that a narcissistic individual will kind of play with you, which keeps you always in a state of imbalance. And that's not a healthy way to be able to function as a society. The other day I talked a good bit about, I guess in the video Ego Death, I talked a good bit of energy vampires and how they show up in different energy of somebody always energetically taking from somebody else. So do take a good hard look at your relationships to see, you know, are they balanced? Are you meeting each other at the midpoint, or is the energy in a flow that is quite toxic? I did a sketch recently, and I used it on the cover of a couple of my videos for narcissism, in which case there's a cord between a narcissist and an empath, and that cord is like siphoning from one all their goodness and giving back to them all their toxicity and all the blame. I'm not a bad person. I'm going to make you the bad person. I'm going to shoot that out the backside, and then I'm going to bring into you all your light. So that exchange of energy is certainly not healthy. We also, this is very much our center of movement. I said the word that already. Your sensations, your ability to feel not only emotionally, but your ability to sense all of your things, all your senses tie in here, because they'll let you know and communicate to your emotion center whether you like it or not. Is this bathtub too hot or too cold? Is this food taste nice or not? Does this sound pleasing to my ears, or is it like fingernails on a chalkboard? All of our senses systems, and those that are highly sensitive, will be very aware that certain experiences are very not pleasant and other ones feel fantastic. Certain fabrics, for example, may really irritate you. My son can't stand the feel of wool. Certain sounds are too overwhelming, so wearing earbuds when you go out to a mall or something might be something of benefit, or wearing sunglasses to tone down some of the sensory so you're not going into sensory overload, because our sensory system is reporting everything back to our emotional center. And if our sensory system is on overload, then our emotional system is going to be like, wah, 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 no, not happy, anxiety, fear, something's off. And with our sensory system is also our experience of desire, of what it is that does feel nice, what does, you know, like pouring yourself a nice, perfectly temperatured bath with some aromatherapies and a candle lit, and getting yourself into a desirable situation initiates the ultimate goal of this chakra, which is to experience pleasure. How pleasurable your life is will be determined by how balanced your sacral center is, your emotional center, because if there's any other emotions that are overriding your ability to feel, and trust me, on this awakening journey, there is a lot of overriding your ability to feel pleasure, because you're expressing all the stuff you didn't express for years and years and years and years and years. So all that stuff needs to come out and be cleared out. It's like, imagine a swimming pool that's not had a cover on it and has leaves and dirt and debris and some floating things and maybe a creature too that's dead and at the bottom, that needs to all be cleared out and emptied. That whole swimming pool needs to be emptied and purified and cleaned so that you can put water in that you actually want to swim in, and it would be enjoyable. Otherwise you'd be swimming with a couple dead squirrels and other stuff, and that wouldn't be pleasurable at all. Talk about sensory overload. I can imagine the smell on that would be very not pleasant. So your emotion center is very good. Being water energy, always remember it as water energy. Keep in mind that swimming pool kind of idea, where how clean is your water? How clean is your water? And if your water is in a state of constant coming out at the present moment in time, welcome every single tear, because you're clearing out that center that needs to be released, purged. Thank God, more tears, let them go. Feel all your feels and let them go, because your emotions are energy in motion, and if you're holding them in, there's no motion. That's stagnant water, and in stagnant water mosquitoes grow. So we don't want stagnant water, we want flow. Let it flow, let it go. Feel all of your feels. If you have issues and difficulty feeling your feels, I have an emotions playlist. Please go check it out, because there's a lot of useful tips in that to help assist you in releasing and letting go of the emotions that are trapped inside of your belly. What are some things that you can do to help assist you in healing this chakra? First, you can go watch my videos on the sacral chakra in the chakra playlist. because they give you a lot of information, and the ones that are entitled Manifestations of Diseases in this chakra has the last half hour of that. Now I know it's a really long video, but the last half hour of that is all about healing tools and techniques, a whole list of them. So go watch that video. Also, go watch the emotions playlist to see if it can assist you in clearing out some of the emotions that you may be struggling with. So that's 1 and 2. 3, reevaluate your relationships. Do a self-audit. See which relationships are balanced, which ones aren't balanced, which ones need closure, which ones need release, which ones need reorganization, which ones can be reorganized, which ones can't. Like, communicate your needs as best you possibly can. And if your needs aren't going to be met, then you're going to have to sometimes let those go. And on this healing journey, because everybody awakens at different times, it's not scheduled like this family and then this family. It's scheduled like this person in this family and this person in this family awaken, and everybody else isn't yet. And so your needs may all of a sudden completely and utterly shift and change, and your need for self-love and your need for self-respect and your need for inner peace and your need all of a sudden become jacked up, and you're like, hey, you're not giving me any of these things. We've been together for 20 years, 30 years, whatever many years, and I'm not receiving any of these energies that I'm giving you, so I'm gonna have to say adios for now, and maybe, I don't know, sometime down the road, you'll hop onto yourself and wake up like I'm waking up and deal with some of your stuff. But until that happens, I can't meet you all the way over here on the bridge. I need to meet you at that midpoint. And so because I've communicated what I need from you, and you've said nothing in some cases, or in other cases, your feelings have been dismissed, or your feelings have been rejected, or your feelings has been any number of ploys to tell you that your feelings are wrong, or you're gaslit. Get yourself away from those situations. Those situations aren't going to benefit you. And grieve. You're going to have to grieve the losses, and the losses on this awakening path are massive. And that's not just me, that's standard, that's right across the board. You lose people because as your energetics is changing, you're no longer in harmony with somebody else. And so energetically, you're going to be pushed further and further away from each other. You'll be repelled away from each other. And that's not anything that you can overthink or calculate or control or anything else. Energetically, energy is energy. You can't manipulate the energy as much as you would like to. When it's time to be pulled and pushed away, that's what exactly is going to happen. And the more you resist it, the more painful the process will be. Number 4, movement. It is the you movement. Movement is required for all healing. Getting into the body and moving the body is going to help assist you in anything that you're facing on any of the realms, whether it be emotional, mental, spiritual. Getting into your physical body is the best approach to releasing and healing your system. Energy in motion. You get them, assist the energy that needs to be released. So when you need to feel something, feel it more or do it more. When I have anxiety, I shake. I literally shake, because if I already feel like, then shake even bigger, or do dance, or do aligned walking, get your posture out, engage the abdominal muscles. If you're not engaging your abdominal muscles, that area is weakened. And so the more you engage those abdominal muscles just by zipping them up, which is a Pilates move, while you're standing in line, while you're at work, while you're doing whatever you need to do. Just check in with yourself as many times as you can throughout the day. Are my abdominal muscles engaged? Engaging those is going to help facilitate and strengthen those core muscles to keep that area empowered, to keep it strong, to keep it activated, to keep it functioning. I find the best way to do abdominals work is to get out with aligned walking, and as you're walking, engage the core muscles. And it also is going to help you get your posture into better order, which is going to help facilitate the energy flow. Yoga with Cassandra has a whole chakra playlist for yin yoga. Get down on the ground. Do exercises that are focused around your belly, your stomach. Number 5, You want to cut cords. What is cord cutting? If you think about this, our cord is our navel. So that connects us in the physical realm to our mothers. So we have a cord there, but energetically we have cords that we develop to all people. And they all kind of originate in here because this is our interpersonal zone. So if you have relationships with people that are toxic and trauma bonded and narcissistic, you want to cut those cords. And there's great meditations for cord cuttings. I personally really like Steve Noble. I think that his meditations are spot on. Otherwise, if you just did a search for cord cutting, mind would be blown at how many things come up. It's basic talking you through a visualization of cutting and releasing that person and wishing them on their way. And a soul level, things are very different, but on this human level, you want to disconnect and go no contact with people that are toxic. That is a whole bunch of information today because I believe on the collective level, this is one issue that everybody is facing kind of right now. And if you are, let me know what's playing out in your sacral area and your sacral chakra in the comments below. If you need some help to assist you in shifting this stuff, the blockages, the stagnations, the imbalances that are in your sacral chakra here, get in touch and we can book a one-on-one Zoom call. The way to do that is in the description below. The donation button is there, as well as my email. If you are interested in doing any energetic healings or clearings with me, let me know that that's what you're interested in doing, and that can be a distance healing. I can work with you for that to help facilitate some of the things that you're going through. Otherwise, please utilize the playlists that are available to you that I've made for you over the last couple years. If you want to join the support group and leave a comment for others, say, hey, I'm dealing with this, anyone else? The more we create interconnections with people, then the more community is going to be able to raise its consciousness up out of this imbalanced emotional center and into a much more heart-centered place is the goal. That's where we're trying to all get ourselves up into. And so we still need to work our way out of this one and out of the solar plexus, and I'll be doing videos on those, but this is the start for working on this energy here. So that all said, I hope you all have a fabulous day and get out and get some sunshine, get your feet on the ground, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you, and thank you. I cannot thank you enough for all the likes, the shares, the subscriptions. I'm, I think, 75 away from reaching that 1,000 goal, which has been my first goal to get to, and I am over the moon that we're only 75 away. So I really appreciate all of the subscriptions that I get and all the shares that go out there as well, so that other people can find my channel. Because I don't know how the algorithms work, but it's a bit of a process. But anyways, that's my problem. I am sending you all kinds of love and compassion if you're going through some of the icky emotions, especially, and peace out.